We have a mover in Councillor Strawton's, a seconder in Councillor Duggan, and an against from Councillor D'Agostino. Councillor Coles, would you like to direct your question to the Acting Director of Development Services, please?
Thank you, Madam President. As I asked before the adjournment, to the Director or Acting Director of Development Services, in relation to the alternate motion at 1 Alpha, with the quantities adjusted down to a maximum of 500 litres transported off-site, plus an additional 500,000 litres for on-site sales, what does that mean for the proponent?
Acting Director.
Thank you. Thank you for the question through you. Look, the proponent is not supportive of that. However, the proponent is seeking a 50-50 split on the maximum production of 2 million litres. Thank you.
Sorry if I can through the chair. Sorry, I missed the quantity.
So it's a 50-50 split on the maximum production of 2 million litres.
So 1 million litres. And that's per year?
That's the overall. That's at the overall capacity.
Okay.
So at the overall capacity.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Madam President.
Thank
Going on what Councillor Coles just said, then are we at 1.5 million or 1 million? All told.
all told, we're at 2 million. Before Councillor Strawton's.
Split. Does that make us to 1.5?
No. The application is for 2 million litres, and the applicant is saying that they are happy with the idea of splitting 50-50 between what's consumed on site and what's exported, but would prefer to stay at the 2 million litres rather than reducing it down to the 1 million litres, which Councillor Stroughton's motion does. That's the applicant's response.
Thank you. Just the way I misinterpreted, I thought you were saying the split, which is
And probably in fairness to them, say that they've indicated that 2 million litres is their stretch target. So,
right, no, thank you. That's clarified.
Thank you. Is there any further questions from councillors? Councillor Strawton, would you like to open debate, please?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to start by thanking the applicant. It is a very ambitious, bold and welcome application for the Shire for many reasons. However, of course, we've got many residents that have their concerns. My biggest concern, which I'm seeking to manage for our residents, is to ensure that this application, this site, doesn't become predominantly an industrial site. As we know, it's a rural area, and we can define and break down this application into a commercial component, which is the restaurant and on-site sales, and an industrial component, which is what is transported off-site. Definition, or that's the delineation between commercial and industrial, is what is sold on-site and what is shipped off-site. If the majority is shipped off-site, it is by definition an industrial business. And to put an industrial business in a rural setting, I don't believe is what we have in all good conscience the ability to approve. We have the discretion to approve a microbrewery. I do not believe a site that produces a greater amount that is shipped off-site is a microbrewery. I do not believe a site that has the capacity to manufacture 2 million litres to be a microbrewery. A microbrewery, we could associate certain terms like quaint. Is something we want to see how things are manufactured. We don't want to have a site where people are restricted from seeing the manufacturing process because of forklifts moving around, trucks moving around, and we also know that the rural roads are already going to be struggling with the personal private vehicles, let alone the large trucks that will be moving around there as well. So with the added information we've received, where the applicant would like a 1 million split, I would say I'm still not for that, simply because we need to keep a balance, and I can't see 1 million litres of being sold on site. So therefore, if we've got less than 1 million litres being sold on site, and 1 million litres being transported off-site, then by definition, that will be an industrial process. And again, we're in a rural setting. The applicant has taken the risk, he's bought this land in a rural setting. He knows full well, they know full well, that there are objections, and he knew full well, any reasonable person would know full well, any reasonable business person, that there is a risk and there would be objections, and it's important to manage that. Also, we can see that there are certain governing bodies, environmental bodies, etc., waste management bodies that have their own concerns. I do believe the applicant would possibly have a better chance of getting approval with a reduced amount of quantities down to 1 million total, as opposed to going for the best practice of 2 million. I also think it's a great opportunity to start at 1 million total for the applicant to demonstrate over time of how well they run their business and how well they're considerate of the local environment, the neighbours, so that at a future time they could come back and argue similarly that as the commercial side, the restaurants and on-site sales have increased to a larger amount, and as a result, they would like to be able to ship more off-site. That would be the similar argument I'm putting forward here. This gives them a chance. What I'm proposing gives them a chance. It's a compromise to appease and be more considerate of local residents, to get started achieving what they want to achieve, and then at a later date. What I'm proposing here is not telling them that they cannot install equipment that can produce a greater amount. It's telling them that they can only produce this amount. Okay, so if you're looking for installing equipment that can benefit from economies of scale, you're welcome to do that. If it's going to take you 10 years or 5 years to ramp up to sell a greater quantity, then here is your opportunity to gain your approvals now at a lower amount, and then come back to council and demonstrate what good business citizens you are, to then say we would like to be able to manufacture a larger amount. So I'll leave it at that. I think also the only other little points here is the applicant themselves have said that 251 car parking bays is what they are asking for, and that's what's written as a maximum. As I am the chairman of the Access and Inclusion Committee, I would just like to emphasise the reason why I added for this disability parking bays to a minimum be designed in accordance with relevant Australian New Zealand standards. That is because some applicants may well like to put wider paths or do extra things for disabled, but they wouldn't be allowed to do that if they're restricted to build those parking bays only in accordance with the relevant Australian New Zealand standards. And looking over, the reason, if you're asking, the question was asked to me by a fellow councillor, Councillor Atwell, why have I mentioned 1.2 million litres of manufactured product when it comes to managing the waste? And that is to enable the applicant to manage spillage, if they have such, that they are prepared for spillage of more than 1 million litres. So that's my argument, my debate, and I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Straughtons. Councillor Duggan, would you like to speak or reserve?
I'm happy to reserve. Thanks, Madam President. I think that Councillor Straughtons has summed it up very nicely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Councillor D'Agostino, would you like to speak now?
Thank you, Madam President. I think the residents have lobbied very effectively for many months, and for me, they've raised some significant issues with the project. One of the issues that I think resonates is the traffic issue. And, you know, I think as Mr. Gillibrand has identified, there are some significant concerns there with 870 trucks and the like. I think water disposal is a key issue. I know we've talked about it and raised it, but I think how that's going to be managed is a real concern. Scarcity of water. I've lived in Rapid Roads for a number of years, and I've got first-hand knowledge of how little water there is in that area. and how the bore allocations are very tight. So I'm just completely confused and unsure how they're going to be able to get an allocation that they require. So I think I have significant concerns on scarcity of water. I think, the fact that the government departments themselves and the fact that, not one government department has endorsed or come out in favour of the project, that to me raised a number of major red flags. So at all those levels, and I'm sure there's many others, I have significant concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor D'Agostino. Is there any other councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Straughton, would you like to close debate, please?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, councillor D'Agostino. I think what councillor D'Agostino highlights is that there are still quite a few concerns. And with all applications, or just about all applications that come to council, especially complicated ones or sophisticated ones like this one, there is unfortunately sometimes a bit of a leap of faith that we must take, and we can put all the conditions in place, but there's always something that we might not have thought of. And if we deferred and deferred and deferred, still trying to think of all the variables, then things would never progress. So I just like to communicate to the applicant that even though I'm proposing a restricting down of the amount of litres manufactured, please understand that we also have to manage the possible impacts, the unforeseen impacts, and this helps you and us manage that. We are here, the Shire is here to work together for the success of see businesses successful and to have such businesses as this to be of great benefit to the local residents as well. Thank you. Happy to put it to a vote.
Thank you, councillor Straughton. All those in favour of the motion before us? All those against? Motion is carried 5-4. Thank you.
Councillor Stratton, are you happy with the wording you provided as the reason for the difference for the officer recommendation for the minutes?
Yes, I'm happy with that because I provided earlier.
And can I please request the votes recorded? Thank you.
Minute Secretary, can we please have the votes recorded? Councillor Duggan has requested. Thank you. Item 10.1.2, section 31, reconsideration of development applications. 1, floriculture extensive, growing of vegetables and fruit. 2, use not listed, importation and sale of firewood. And 3, April 846 Rowley Road, Oakford. Can I please have a mover for the motion that we have?
Madam President, can I please put forward an alternate motion, that being the officer's recommendation, however, with condition O not removed, please. Condition O, within 30 days of approval, the applicant is to submit a landscape plan, and the officer's recommendation that is to be removed. I'd like that kept in, please.
Yeah, just to clarify, Councillor Duggan, for it's the officer recommendation, but you're suggesting that where the recommendation included delete condition O, which reads as within 30 days the applicant submit a landscape plan, you're proposing to delete those words. So we'll just go amend condition L to read as no more than 10 beehives in the property, and then it would go to point number 2. Is that correct?
No,
Councillor-
according to option 1 I have here, it says at the bottom of page 69 to delete condition O.
So do you want to retain?
I want that
condition?
to be retained.
So
Thank you.
councillor Duggan would like the word delete from condition O on page 73
To say
to
retain.
retain instead of delete.
Okay, sorry, my mistake, sorry, thank you. So the only change essentially is to replace the word delete with the word retain.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President, could I ask you about condition B, please?
Councillor?
I think so. The intention at the moment is to delete the requirement for the applicant to do a dust management plan. So if we wanted the applicant to do a dust management plan, we'd need to not delete that.
You'd need to change the delete to a retain.
Right. Is it premature to ask? Oh, I've got to wait. Sorry. Director.
Thank you for the question. So as part of the additional information submitted, which forms an attachment to the item, the applicant submitted dust management measures for the use not listed and the growing of vegetables application. The dust measures ultimately proposed suppression for the dust generating activities associated with those developments. So all we're doing as part of this, officers recommending as part of this approval, is getting rid of that condition and making the additional information, which has the dust measures, as the approved plans. The development will have to comply with the approved plans, which includes dust measures, which is the dust management plan.
Thank you. Further, Jason. So just to clarify, so they'll still be legally enforceable. So if the applicant isn't meeting the dust requirements, then there can still be measures taken.
Into the question, absolutely. If I can draw your attention to the actual officer recommendation, you will see under number 2, dust management plan dated 23rd of November forms part of the approved plan. And if you look at the use not listed, the dust management plan dated 23 December 2022 forms part of the approved plans. So the development will have to comply with the dust management measures proposed as part of the additional information submitted.
Thank you.
Madam President, could I ask a follow-up question, please? The measures that are outlined in those plans, do they cover every activity occurring on site in relation to those uses?
Director?
Thank you for the question. Dust management typically address the predominant activities on site. So, for example, the importation sale of firewood would be the vehicles traversing on the hard stand, would be suppressing the actual hard stand and high wind event days, for example. In terms of the growing of vegetables, the dust measures proposed look to ensuring that the ground is stabilised and suppressed when there's a tractor or loader works done to improving the soil or the area to be vegetated and for vegetables to grow. So typically they address those predominant activities associated with those development applications. Thank you.
So just a follow-up question then, as it stands, it wouldn't prevent or it wouldn't require measures to be in place in relation to traversing along the boundary of the property, for example, getting from one part of the property to another part of the property?
Thank you for the question. That's correct, Councillor.
Madam President, can I just go back to the and ask the director for clarification? Is what Councillor Duggan's suggesting in terms of the change to the word delete to retain? Is that an appropriate way to deal with what Councillor Duggan is suggesting, or do you have an alternative suggestion, Acting Director?
Thank you for the question. If Councillor Duggan wants to retain that condition, it'd be removing delete and saying retain condition C.
Director, I have a question in regards to the dust management plans. Obviously, this is a business operating from this property that has some other businesses that surround it and some residential properties as well. Given the development plans that have been submitted and the management plans that have been presented as part of that, is there any parts of the development that would need access to the perimeter of the property, except for having fire breaks placed that were compliant with the legislation?
Thank you for the question, Madam President. Based on what's been submitted, there's nothing that presents for a need for any dust measures associated with any incidental activity, so a vehicle traversing the boundary. But notwithstanding that, there still may be instances or examples where the operator may have to work outside of the areas dedicated, for example, the hard stand, to traverse the property to go to the rear of the site for some reason. So those are the incidental activities that the application really doesn't present to us, but it's not uncommon for these incidental activities to occur.
Thank you. Councillors, we have a mover for the motion with the change of delete to retain for condition O on page 73. There has been no other changes made as yet to the recommendation we see before us. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councillor D'Agostino. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Thank you, Councillor Coles. Councillor Duggan, can you please open debate?
Thanks, Madam President. We've heard from a neighbour here today and she's expressed a number of concerns. The dust one is certainly a difficult one, but my grave concern is that she has a son who's anaphylaxis to bee stings, as she said here. You know, when we've got a child that can't go outside to play because he's concerned about the increase in bees in his area. And when I read the bottom of page 67, where it says, talking about bees, foragers generally only fly as far as they need to collect nectar, pollen and water. So to me, that doesn't make sense if we're looking at then removing the requirement for the proponent to have a source of food on site for these bees, and to try and stop them from moving the distance of 2 or 3 kilometres, but comfortably flying 5 to 6 kilometres. If they don't have to fly that far, they're not going to. So I think that it's actually counterintuitive to remove condition O and then have that written in as being a guideline for us to work by. So for that reason, I believe in even more so that condition O is very important and needs to be retained. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Councillor D'Agostino, would you like to speak or reserve?
Reserve. Thank you, Madam President.
Councillor Coles?
Thank you, Madam President, and I support the comments already made in relation to this item, and I foreshadow we actually go to option 2, which is we reaffirm our decision that we made, I think, back in August, or the council made in August last year. And the reason I say that is we need to represent our ratepayers. We've had a deputation tonight from a very impassionate ratepayer, and I empathise with the family. I understand why people come and live in our beautiful Shire, and they make that as a lifestyle decision. They come and live here because of the beautiful features that we have, the value for money, I guess, in terms of acreage, and to have that lifestyle that some of us unfortunately take for granted, but some have worked particularly hard for. And I can imagine the despair with the Taylor family when they purchased their 5 acres some 7 years ago, with the plans to raise their family there in a beautiful lifestyle and that rural area that we have. And I can only imagine the devastation that would have to the Taylor family to have people that, and I'll use the term cowboys, I hope I'm not going to be put a complaint in about cowboys next door doing things that unequivocally affect that lifestyle that the Taylors have asked for, that the Taylors have seeked out, and that's why the Taylors live in the Shire of Serpentine Jarrahdale and why they decided to purchase 5 acres. So their son can ride motorbikes, they can have a swimming pool, and they can basically love having a beautiful landscape to grow up in. So we as councillors need to listen to our community, and then when there's someone who is next door who's trying to do something that we're concerned about, we need to take action. And I think the motion that's on the table at the moment doesn't go far enough to protect, I think is probably the right term, protect the lifestyle that the Taylors deserve. And they deserve that lifestyle because they purchased that land 7 years ago and they came here with that dedication or that interest to reside here and to have that lifestyle. So the motion that's live is going to get rid of a dust management plan. The motion that is live will amend condition to 50 customers are permitted to attend the Shire during the hours of operation. It's going to delete chainsaws and or petrol log splitters as prohibited at all times. Wood is to be only sold in the form that is delivered to the site. We've already had concerns of the neighbour about chainsaws. So what I'm trying to say is they've come here, they expect protection from the local council. If we as councillors can't listen to our ratepayers, if we as councillors can't protect our ratepayers, then we might as well always all pack up now and go home. I mean, it is 9:30 at night. Hopefully we're here for the right reasons and we're here to listen to our ratepayers. Why should we listen to bureaucrats? Why should we listen to the State Administrative Tribunal who thinks they know better than what we do? Because we know our residents, we know our ratepayers and we're here to protect them. I would foreshadow that option 2 and we reaffirm our decision that we made in the previous council meeting in August last year.
Thank you, councillor Coles.
Madam President, could I just ask a question? And apologies, I may have missed it, but could I ask the acting director what was the rationale for deleting condition F about the use of chainsaws?
Director.
Thank you for the question. Councillor, in the August 2022 OCM, the applicant didn't demonstrate by way of an acoustic assessment that the noise generated from the processing of wood complies with the sign levels of noise regulations. The difference with this application through the SAP process is a acoustic assessment was prepared and undertaken and submitted to demonstrate what the actual noise received to the sensory receptor to the east is and to the west. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Director. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Duggan, would you like to close, please?
Thanks, Madam President. Councillor Coles, all your points are absolutely pertinent. My concern is that I'm aware that this has already gone to SAT. If we go back with the same, we'll just end up with the same outcome. I think that we are better off trying to put in some tight regulations and ensuring that our Shire officers are supported to enforce those regulations rather than just go around in circles and come back to the start again. So that's a reason for my motion that I put forward. But like I say, I absolutely 100% agree with everything that you say. It's a really tough one. Thanks.
Thank you, councillor Duggan. All those in favour of the motion before us? All those against? Motion is lost 2-7. Councillor Coles, you have foreshadowed a move to option 2.
Sorry, Madam President, could I ask the votes to be recorded? Thank you.
Minute Secretary, can we please have the votes recorded? Councillor Coles has moved option 2. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, councillor Bias. Is anybody opposed to the motion before us? Is there any councillor opposed to the motion before us? Motion is carried unanimously.
Madam President, can we get a reason for the difference of the recommendation? And this is in the SAT period process, so it would be good to be a detailed reason.
I would ask for your help there, Mr. CEO. Quite simply, it's to allay the concerns of the neighbour, but we might need to add some more meat to those bones. But that's basically the rationale behind it.
Councillor Coles, could I suggest something like to reflect the council believes this resolution more accurately reflects community views on how
Rural lifestyles.
on rural lifestyles?
Thank you.
Say that again, please, Councillor.
That the council believes this resolution more accurately, and that mightn't be the right word, but more appropriately reflects community views on a rural lifestyle. or something.
Expectations.
The community expectations perfect in relation to rural lifestyles. That's fine.
Thank you, Councillor D'Agostino.
Councillors, item 10.1.3, retrospective development application for sea container, lot 12, 24 Blythesworth Avenue, Byford. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Coles. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.4, proposed dwelling and rural workers dwelling, lot 2, 582 Orton Road, Oldbury. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Bias. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.5, proposed auxiliary dwelling, lot 3, 307 Shanley Road, Mardella. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Bias. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Councillor Atwell, the motion to approve the officer's recommendation was carried unanimously. Item 10.1.6, approval of local planning policy 4.25, uniform fencing. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Bias. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.7, Community Emergency Services Manager, SESM, renewal of Memorandum of Understanding, MOU and Business Plan between the Department of Fire and Emergency Services, DEFIS, and the Shire of Serpentine, Jarrahdale. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Bias. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.2, infrastructure services reports. 10.2.1, minutes of the Rivers Regional Council meeting held on the 15th of December 2022. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Byers. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Strawton. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. I have declared a financial interest in item 10.2.2, so I'll hand the chair to Councillor Atwell. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 10.2.2, award request for tender RFT 13-2022, Nettleton Road widening and resurfacing, SJ 4059. Can I have a mover for this motion, please? Councillor Bias, a seconder. Councillor Duggan, anyone opposed to this motion? Passed unanimously. Thank you. Coming back, Madam President, and for your information, this the item was passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Item 10.2.3, award request for tender RFT 10-2022, project manager infrastructure.
Madam President, I'd like to move an alternate motion.
Thank you, Councillor Strange.
The motion being that council defers award of RFT 1022 project manager infrastructure until council has had the opportunity to workshop the procurement approach at the policy concept forum scheduled for 27 March 2023 to explore further the costs and benefits of the proposed approach outlined in the report when compared against other possible approaches, as a minimum being establishing a panel of suitably qualified consultants to perform project management functions as required, and maintaining the status quo being project management functions being tendered on an as-needed project-by-project basis. And then point 2, request the CEO seek a further 42-day extension of tender validity from each of the conforming tenderers, resulting in a validity up to and including 24 April 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Strange. Can I please have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councillor D'Agostino. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.
The reason being to ensure best fit approach for procurement of project management support.
Thank you, Councillor Strange. Item 10.2.4, award request for tender RFT 12-2022, Cargottage Road reconstruction stage 1. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Byers. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.2.4, Byford Tennis Courts, amendment to management model. Can I please have a mover for this motion? I'm happy to move. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Is there anybody?
Madam President, supposed to have a quick question on this, and apologies. There's no additional cost to the Shire on doing this as such, is there?
Director of Infrastructure, would you be able to answer the question from Councillor D'Agostino, please?
Through you, Madam President. Thank you for the question. if I understand the question right, is there's no additional cost to council if we proceed with the proposed. Not only there won't be any additional cost, but there will be savings in the maintenance to the tune of around $9,000 a year.
Thank you.
Madam President, could I ask a question too, please?
Yes, councillor Duggan.
I can't see it written anywhere how it'd be advertised what people are to do to be able to get onto the Space Toco website. Is there signage that needs to be put on the fence?
Director of Infrastructure.
Thank you for the question. Yes, correct. Once council endorses the officer recommendation, we will put signage up on site to refer users to book the facility for the future use.
And a following question, if I may, and do we have any idea of the cost of that? I'm assuming it's not going to be a significant cost, but still something that I'd like to know, please.
Director?
The cost of signage of that nature would be under $50.
Thanks so much.
Councillors, is there any councillor opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. 10.3 is corporate services reports. 10.3.1 is confirmation of payment of creditors December 2022. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Strange. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.3.2 is confirmation of payment of creditors January 2023. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Bias. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Atwell. Can I please, is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.3.3 is monthly financial report, November 2022. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Bias. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.3.4, monthly financial report, December 2022. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Bias. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor D'Agostino. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. 10.3.5, changes to method of valuation used for rating purposes post consultation. I have an alternate motion to put forward. It is item 1 and 2 is the same as the officer's recommendation. Point 3 will change to request the Chief Executive Officer to bring a further report to council following additional consultation with properties identified in attachment 7. Can I please have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion?
Not opposed, Madam President, but if I may ask a question, what is the additional consultation that you're thinking would be appropriate for this, please?
Councillor Duggan, as put forward by the Director of Corporate Services at the Q&A held for this item this evening before the OCM started, it was stated that out of the properties that had put forward that they were of rural use, the officers have spoken to roughly 1/3 at present that wish to move to GRV instead of remaining at UV. There is another 1/3 that they have spoken to that wish to remain UV, and another 1/3 that they have yet to be able to contact. So further consultation with those property owners is needed.
I guess my question was more is that looking to be one-on-one consultation? Is that looking to be a group meeting? Just sort of after a bit more information of what consultation was identified would be useful. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam
Director of Corporate Services.
President. Thank you, Madam President. A phone call.
Thanks.
Are there any councillors opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.3.6, Council Policy Review, Health and Safety. Can I please have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Strawtons. Can I please have a seconder? Councillor Bias, thank you. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.4 is Community Engagement Reports. 10.4.1 is Local Emergency Management Committee Information Report. Can I please have a mover for this report? Thank you, Councillor D'Agostino. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.4.2, Anzac Day 2023. Can I please have a mover for this motion?
Madam President, I'm moving an alternate motion as earlier circulated.
Thank you, Councillor Strawtons. Do I have a Councillor Strawtons? Would you like to read out what your alternate motion is?
Thank you, Madam President. I've added a 0.5 and a 0.6. 0.5 reads, requests Chief Executive Officer to request relevant stakeholders, including the RSL Serpentine Jarrahdale sub-branch, to identify a new location for the Dolly Road Cenotaph in a location to accommodate all whom will attend future Anzac and related ceremonies in Byford. And 0.6, present the outcomes of the stakeholder investigation of 0.5 above to a future budget workshop for its consideration as part of the 2023-24 budget setting process, inclusive of project costs and community satisfaction impact. Full stop.
Thank you, Councillor Strawtons. Do we have a seconder for the motion put forward by Councillor Strawtons? Thank you, Councillor D'Agostino. Is there anybody opposed to this motion?
Sorry, Madam President, can I just ask a question to the Director of Community Engagement? Is this resulting in an extra $6,000 as per 0.2?
Director?
Yes, that is correct.
So can I ask how that's come about?
As stated in the officers' report, when officers have been seeking quotes for infrastructure required for the delivery of the Anzac Day events, contractor costs have increased since budgeting process was done maybe over 9 months ago.
And for follow-up question, if I can, through the chair, is it possible to get an itemised list of how it's now gone from 6,000 to 12,000?
Yes, can take that on notice and provide it to councillors.
Thank you.
Okay. Could I have a question, please, to Councillor Strawtons?
Yes, Councillor Atwell.
I'm just wondering, Councillor, are you envisaging that this would tie the Anzac Day ceremony to somewhere in Byford permanently? Is that your... No, okay, thank you.
Not at all.
No, thank you for that.
Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Councillor Strawtons, I have a further question. Given 0.5, it states at the end, whom will attend the future Anzac and related ceremonies in Byford. Are you tying the relocation of the cenotaph to a location in Byford?
Thank you for the question, Madam President. as we know, we have a rotating Anzac ceremony, and Byford cannot accommodate its rotation because it's not a large enough location. So all I'm seeking to achieve here is to facilitate a new location in Byford, so when it has its rotation for the Anzac ceremony, it can happen. Because right now it can't happen in the current location.
Thank you, Councillor Straughtons. Director of Community Engagement, I have a question for you. My understanding was that the service that can't be accommodated in Byford, numbers wise at the present, is the dawn service and not the 9 a.m. service that is traditionally been held by the Shire. Is that correct, or am I wrong in my understanding?
Thank you, Madam President. Through the planning process and engagement that we had with the RSL, since the time that it has been since services have been held in Byford, the development at the both sites, but also at the Byford Library location, since the form up was held, there's been a greater requirement around traffic management. Previous practices around how traffic management was handled at the Southwest Highway intersection through the support of local police, that's not considered suitable now, and greater traffic management is required. And given the factors of development and traffic management, it's not considered that either location is suitable for either the dawn service or the Shire's Anzac Day march up and ceremony.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Straughtons, I don't wish to speak against the motion, but I can't support it in its current form, given the lack of areas in Byford where we could actually look to relocate something of this magnitude. So I will actually vote against it, but I don't wish to speak against it. So.
Could I just ask, Madam President, if you changed identify to investigate a new location, would that be acceptable to you? Potentially even stop to investigate a potential new location?
Yes, that would probably make a difference.
Madam President, I really would like to go to debate on it, because I think I can address those points that you've raised, that also Councillor D'Agostino's raised in debate. I don't think it needs to be changed. I think because basically if a new site can't be identified, that's what the stakeholders will communicate. And that's solved.
All right, Councillor Straughtons, open debate.
Thank you, Madam President. So, as we've just heard, there is a rotation for the Anzac Day service between Jarrahdale, Mundijong, Byford, and Byford is not going to hold its Anzac Day service in this rotation because it cannot accommodate the amount of people that wish to attend. So obviously this initial motion was there to say, well, okay, we'll have this Byford's rotation in Mundijong, which is great, no problem. But what are we going to do going forward? So my alternate motion seeks to address that. And it's interesting, I mean, I didn't think that I would need to go in detail as to what I envisage as the solution, but as there seems to be scepticism that there is a possible location, and it's not up to me, but it's up to the stakeholders to decide whether that exists or not. But for want of suggesting a solution, I see a great solution in Kalimna Oval. Kalimna Oval is backed by a bridle path. Here we have a cenotaph that has a horse, and that guy that's beside him, which I forgot last time as well, Simpson, yes. I am ex-military. I should know better. I do apologise. Simpson and his horse or donkey, whatever you want to call it, So Kalimna Oval down there, the bridle path, I would see as ideal. Because we could even in the future start looking at putting horse yards there. We can have those 10-flight horse reenactment persons ride down the bridle paths, and everyone else that rides their horses could ride down to Kalimna Oval and put the horses in the yard for the Anzac service. We already have a coffee van that goes down there in Kalimna Oval, the little red wagon or whatever they're called, that parks there. So it's a great location for coffee vans. We've got school there that's great for parking, lots of streets around, it's great for parking. Again, the bridle paths are great for foot access for people to walk there in the morning for the Anzac service. I haven't needed to look past that site, but if I was forced to try and find another site in Byford, I probably could. And I think this is a great opportunity to better connect Simpson and his horse to our bridle paths and donkey horse, and celebrate our rural aspect more appropriately by getting that cenotaph with more real horses also attending. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Straughtons. Councillor D'Agostino.
I'll reserve, thank you.
Thank you. I'm not really wishing to speak against this, but I do see some major concerns with what Councillor Straughtons has raised. At present, we have 4 towns in our shire. Each of them has a war memorial. They all have considerable history with their war memorials. And I would not like to see Byford lose their war memorial, given that they have a peace wall and the memorial. They are significant structures with a huge amount of meaning in all of our communities. And Councillor Straughtons has put forward Kalimna Oval, which has the same issues, if not worse, than what Dolly Road has, with the limited parking and traffic management that would need to go into that area. I've attended school events at the West Byford Primary School, and even just on a morning for a school assembly and such, that the parking is not great in that area. And take into consideration that the last couple of dawn services that we did have held by the RSL sub-branch in Byford had in excess of 5,000 people attend. That is where the issue comes in. I understand what Councillor Straughtons is trying to do with the motion he's put forward. I have concerns of limiting it to Byford because I don't know if we are going to be able to find a location in Byford that will meet the criteria that is going to be needed to relocate the War Memorial to. That is my concern. Thank you. Is there any other councillors who would like to speak for this motion? Councillor Straughtons, would you like to close, please?
Thank you, Madam President. Here we are, we need to find a solution for Byford. So I do think it needs to be limited to Byford because we already have ceremony locations that function well in other parts of the Shire. With regards to the parking, I don't think it's up to us. This is not, I have not named Kalimna Oval in this alternative motion. I've put it so that those who have the authority, the experience, can come up with a solution. If they determine that the parking is insufficient in Kalimna Oval, or any particular location, it's up to them to come up with a solution, which could include buses, for example. It could include just blocking a road and enable parking along the road. It could include parking on part of the park itself. It's up to them to come up with a solution because it's going to come back to council to endorse what they suggest or not endorse it. So this is not the end point right now. This is simply requesting an investigation into a solution for Byford, because we must have a solution for Byford. Already, when I've been living in Byford, I've attended ceremonies in Byford at 2 different locations. So I do not believe that it's locked in, and the history is there. That would be too upsetting. I think people understand they live in a growing environment where new supermarkets open, new developments happen, new train stations come, and a new cenotaph would probably be necessary as well. So I'll leave it at that, and happy to take it to a vote. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Stratton. All those in favour of the motion before us? 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. All those against? Motion is carried 8-1.
And councillor Stratton, can we get a reason for the difference of the officer's recommendation, please?
Yes, your CEO. The words are to facilitate an ANZAC solution for the Byford ceremonies. 10.5 is Executive Services Reports. 10.5.1 is Rivers Regional Subsidiary, adoption of revised charter following minister comment and appointment of board member. Can I please have a mover for the motion before us? Thank you, councillor Atwell. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Stratton. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.6 is confidential reports, of which there is nil. Item 11 is urgent business, of which there is nil. Item 12 is councillor questions, of which notice has been given. It's nil. Brings us to item 13 of closure, and I declare this meeting closed at 10:07 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance at this evening's meeting, and please have a safe trip home. Thank you.